Hello and welcome to the Being and Becoming podcast. Together we are being honest in conversations about thoughts we're having and books we're reading in the hopes of becoming better, more able versions of our current selves. My name is Logan Howard. I'm joined today by my friend Hannah Snyder, and Hannah's had a really interesting experience over the last couple of years working and living in the Middle East, in Jordan specifically. So Hannah, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks for having me, Logan. This is a great opportunity.
Awesome. I'm glad that you feel that way, and I'm very happy to have you on the show. So, we were talking a little bit beforehand of just it's our 10-year high school graduation reunion or whatnot this year, and so it's kind of been a while since we've seen each other, or just since I've seen a lot of people, it feels like, and so this is kind of a fun opportunity to catch up and check in with how you're doing.
Yeah, your podcast kind of feels like a reunion for me with all the people like from our class and our school. I feel like listening to you is like a reunion for me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've had a lot of CCS guests on, so shout out Cincinnati Christian Schools.
Heyo.
But so Hannah, I wanted to ask a little bit about how you got connected in Jordan originally and what made you want to live there and work there.
Yeah, it's totally like nothing that I would have expected. I never expected to go to the Middle East, even come my senior year of college. That was not on my radar at all. It was not until like 2 months before I graduated that the Middle East was ever a thought in my mind.
And you went to Liberty, right? Liberty University?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So I had always had like a passion for just learning about different cultures and different languages, and I was studying TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. And kind of knew like I'm gonna go probably somewhere outside of America. I have the ability and have the passion to like learn about other cultures and just like experience God through that. But I was studying Spanish at the time. And so I was thinking I would go to a Spanish speaking country because it makes sense. But I think that the Lord just had other plans for me. Like he knew me better than I knew myself. And so my professor is connected to this school in the Middle East in Jordan. And every year he would just like pass out a pamphlet of different like job opportunities for us to look at. And so he passed out this pamphlet for the school in Jordan. And I don't know what it was that day, but he looked at me and my two other friends that were sitting next to me and was like, I think you guys need to look at this school. And we were all studying Spanish. And so we were all kind of like, ah, that's crazy. Um, but then like a week or so after that, another friend came up to me and was like, Hannah, I don't know why. I've just been thinking about like you and this school. Like every time I pray, this comes to mind. I don't know why. And so she was like, have you given any thought to it? And I had not. And so, but I think the Lord knows that I need to hear from like, it takes a while to get through this head. And so he sent all these people to me. And so then I applied at the school. Just I was like, okay, I'll just see it. I graduated in December, so mid-year is kind of hard to like walk into schools sometimes. And so I didn't even know if they'd have positions. And the school emailed me back immediately and was like, we have this position open. Could you please, like, it would be amazing if you could come. It sounds like you meet all the qualifications. And so I was like, hold up. I don't know if I'm ready for this yet. And they were like, that's totally fine. But the owner of the school is actually on a visit to America and he'll be at your school tomorrow. Could you go meet with him? And I was like, okay, I'll go sit with them. And by the end of the talk and getting to hear about the school in Jordan and just like the culture, and it kind of sparked an interest in the Middle East, of which I knew nothing about outside of what we read in the headlines here. And so yeah, that's kind of how what launched me over there and how I ended up over there.
That sounds like a great friend to, be praying for you and then to have the confidence to voice that to you as well.
Yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
thankful. She actually also ended up overseas as well. So we get to like cross paths from time to time. So that's really cool.
Is she also in the Middle East, or did she decide to go the Spanish speaking country route?
She also went to the Middle East as
No
well. So
kidding.
we cross paths sometimes. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What country is she in? Can you say?
No, probably shouldn't say hers, but
Yeah.
she's over in that region. So
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's cool that that Liberty's like connected like that and can plug you guys in, encourage you if you have an interest in, overseas and teaching, like they're able to connect you.
Yeah, yeah. I got involved with they used to have like a English language institute. And you could set up a partnership where you just kind of partner with other international students, and you guys can do language exchange and like help each other out with needs that you have. And that was a really cool opportunity. I got to meet a lot of people from a lot of cultures that I didn't know much about. Um, so that was really cool.
That is awesome. And sorry, I wanted to go back to the Spanish speaking country topic for a second because you had said that that had been an interest before going to the Middle East where you ended up. But were there any other trips that you had taken to like Central or South America that had sparked that interest, or like how did that original interest come about?
Well, originally I was studying French because with my major we had to choose a language to study for 4 semesters. And so I had chosen French and I took 1 semester of it, and I just did not click with the professor. It was not working for me. And
You
so
said au revoir.
exactly the one thing I learned in French and then got out. So I switched to Spanish because I was like, that's comfortable. Like I've taken Spanish before. And I feel like that's a language I'd be able to learn. And it's very useful in the States too to know it. And so yeah, that's how I switched to Spanish. Not anything incredible there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. It's something you're somewhat familiar with. We had taken in high school. Shout out Senor Gantz and
Hey, yeah.
Senor Reynes,
Oh my gosh,
remember
yeah.
struggling through some of those classes, but
Yes.
but okay, so you start taking the Spanish classes, and then there's a familiarity there, like you had said, like from studying in high school. What was the adjustment like learning? Is it what language is spoken in Jordan? Would it be like Arabic or something?
Arabic, yeah.
Okay, because that's very different than Spanish and French, I'd imagine.
It is. Yeah, there's nothing like Arabic, to be honest. But I would say so I've been like studying the language, like with a focus of trying to learn it for 2 years. I lived there in Jordan for a year and a half without really trying at all. I was just working full time and a first year teacher. And so I didn't really try too hard. I learned the basics for survival, and that was about it. But spending 2 years like really focusing on learning it, um, it's a hard language. It's not an easy language.
I can imagine. And I'm sorry. So you had said you had worked there for a year and a half. When did you originally go over? Was it right after graduation
Yeah,
from college?
so yes, yeah, I graduated in December of 2018, I think, and went in February of 2019. And I was there for a year and a half, and then COVID hit.
Mm,
So, and those were crazy times, and no one really knew what was happening. So I finished out the school year, and COVID was pretty crazy in Jordan, and in the Middle East because everything just got shut down like how it did here, but we weren't allowed to leave our houses for days at a time. So they would give us a warning of like, you have a day or you have 2 days to go get food for you and your family, and then you have to stay in your house for 4 to 5 days at a time. And you weren't allowed to leave. So you would see like police kind of like monitoring to make sure no one was leaving their house, and the desert really started to look like the desert with no one
wow.
being out and about. But so when they started having flights out and the school year ended, I came back to the States and was here for I think about 2 years, and then went back to Jordan in 2022.
Wow. So even with COVID and everything, you're able to finish out the school year. Like that sounds like a very dedicated worker, you know? That's awesome.
Living that contract. No,
Yeah.
it was really good actually because we did online, and I think like maybe I don't want to speak for every teacher, but I think come April, March and April, a lot of teachers are hitting like a really tired point. And I was kind of at that point of tired, like, okay, we're gonna push through till the end of the year. And then we went online, and it was kind of nice to just sit back and do it all online for a little bit. But, then it stuck around a little bit longer, and that was less fun. But
Yeah. Yeah. So the school year ended, and does it end around May? Like it would
yeah.
in the States? Okay. So it ends around May, and then you probably have to wait a couple more months before you're able to come back, or were you able to get out right as the school was ending?
I'm trying to remember, it's a bit fuzzy, but I think I came back in mid-May. So they were doing flights randomly every 2 weeks. So I was able to hop on one of those really fast.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So then you're able to get back, and then when you came back, was it difficult adjusting at all? Did you miss anything from the Middle East that was like you had grown accustomed to?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a shocker to leave so suddenly because we weren't really sure when flights were open. They would come and then they'd say, this is the last one for who knows how long. So we were just constantly packed and like ready to go whenever it would come. And because we couldn't leave our houses, we weren't able to really say goodbye to people. So that was really hard because it was kind of leaving like, will I come back to this country? Will I ever see any of these friends again? And then I think going from being in my apartment every day, 24/7 for like 2 months straight to being able to go out, that was a bit of a shocker. And everything was still kind of closed here too, but there was more freedom. You could go to like a park and walk around here, or you could go and like pick up food at a restaurant or something like that. Um, but yeah, even just being around my family was a bit of a shocker at the time. But I think, yeah, I missed a lot of it, and I think it was heightened because it was like this, "Will I ever get to go back and see it again?" Kind of, because none of us knew if the world would open up again
Right.
at that time. So, yeah. Yeah.
And I notice you keep saying we when you're referring to being in Jordan. Can you help maybe the listener understand? Is there like a group of teachers, maybe from the US or UK, other places that are kind of living together in like, I don't want to say a compound, but like a house or housing or something like that? How did that work?
Yeah. So the school that I worked at, they had a bunch of American teachers that worked there. So the school was a national school. So it was owned and run by Jordanians. And the majority of the teachers were Jordanian, but they brought in maybe 15 foreign teachers, either from America, or there were some teachers from Korea or Taiwan, to teach English or science or math classes. So that's the we that I'm usually referring to in that instance. Yeah.
Awesome. And so you, as the teachers kind of get close, right? If you're kind of, I guess the word would be communing or doing life together, however you want to phrase that. So is it weird to be seeing them all the time and then all of a sudden you're shut in your apartment, like you were saying, and for weeks at a time? I'd imagine that that could make you feel or make someone feel homesick, if you're like in this cool place, but you can't have the freedom to go out and do the things you're accustomed to doing.
Yeah, that's actually a great point that you just brought up. I feel like I went from college to this really tight-knit community at the school to coming back home because I didn't really have a time in between home and going. I had maybe a month or two. So it was quick, like say goodbyes, get packed, get ready, and go. And I think that I didn't experience, and I don't know if you experienced this too, but I've spoken with some friends after college, just the loss of community that you have after going to university
Oh,
is a
it's huge.
big, yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. So I think I didn't experience that until I came back from after COVID. And I was like, whoa, wait, we're not with like a walking distance of friends constantly. What is this?
And then COVID is even more jarring because not only does it change, like you were saying, living in more of a communal setting like college or like your experience in Jordan, but then you're also like the opposite extreme where you kind of have to be inside. Like there are these mandates, there's all this craziness going on. So you don't even necessarily have a ton of choice in connecting yourself in a community where, so just to cut in here a little bit with what you were saying about that. I had a very good friend group and community in college, graduated, lived with one of my best friends. And then we had split because he went to live in a house and I just wanted to live in an apartment with another roommate or just one other person. And I think I came to regret that decision because then you don't know, but then COVID happened around that time.
Mm,
And I mean, my roommate was great that I had, and I was engaged. Things were like really crazy. But
mm,
then I had been a part of like a church and some other stuff, and like all that programming just stopped. And like we were doing church online a little bit, and even when things got back to quote unquote normal, it felt like I don't know, like we never hit the same stride. Like I think we got placed in a different small group, my wife and I, or something. Like it was just like it didn't feel the same. Like
yeah.
coming back out. Did you ever experience any of that? Adjusting back out, or like what was that COVID time like? Maybe I shouldn't skip over that, but what was that like for you, like in adjusting?
No, I think it's so good to talk about this because COVID was such like a crazy time and we've really just moved past it if you think about it. Um, but yeah, I guess coming to it, so I guess a part of where I was living, it's not very green, because it's very desert like and as a woman, I didn't go out by myself really very often. And so I usually, and part of that was just I didn't speak the language at the time, so it's not the wisest thing for me to try and go to places where there's only going to be Arabic and I won't be able to communicate. And part of it was I was really young when I first went over there and didn't really know how to live on my own in a foreign country really. So I went a lot of places with a lot of people. So then coming home and having the ability to like be outside and in by myself because I'm an introvert. So it's like very nice to be able to go outside by myself and go for a run or something like that. Um, and to be able to do that was just like really a breath of fresh air. Um, so I think that was like a positive that came from it. But then like coming home and not being able to build new community was very difficult. Like you say, like going to church, there wasn't really small groups meeting at the time or if they were, it was online. And I felt very weird trying to like come in to a small group and meet new people online. It just, at that time, I didn't feel like I really wanted to try and invest that way. Which looking back, I probably could have. But I do feel like the Lord provided, like I reconnected with old high school friends, which is a real blessing. And I've always been able to stay like friends with a lot of my high school friends through college. And then they were living here and had lives here, and they were very gracious in bringing me into what they were doing. And I feel like that really helped me. I should probably tell them this actually, but that really helped me and coming back and feeling like it, I think it could have been a really lonely time, but because they were around, yeah, I survived.
Yeah, that's so important. Like you were saying about the I just think there are some mediums that don't lend themselves well to community or what have you, like the Zoom call with people you don't. I think Zoom calls work fine for business, but it's really tough to see the expression on someone's face, especially if you value humor, like maybe like someone like me, and you want to
Yeah.
tell a joke. It's not always easy to tell on a screen, oh, did they take that the right way? But in a room, you get a better feel of, okay, they're laughing and it's not an awkward laugh, like it's legitimate and we're all doing well and that sort of thing. And especially, I think it's also different. Like if you know the person and you're going on to a call, that can
Mhm.
also, I don't know if you have some kind of experience with them before, but coming in cold turkey, just trying to get plugged in, that's really difficult, I'd imagine. And
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that's so good. Like, uh, I think very highly of our high school and our experience, like our shared experience as like our class. There's just it seems like an unending amount of just really good people that we were kind of around and grew up with.
Mhm.
So that's awesome that you were able to connect with them and get plugged in. And yeah, I'd recommend that for anyone listening too. Like, I'm actually, so I was telling you before the podcast, Hannah, but my wife and I moved up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, just about a year ago. And it's been tough kind of, finding people. We got plugged into a church this year. I tore my ACL. So I'd had this like good group of friends in Indy where we used to live that I played hockey with every once in a while. But then, so I couldn't join any leagues up here because of my injury. And then we got plugged into a church, but it's just been, a little, it takes time, I guess, getting connected and whatnot. So, yeah, it's definitely weird being this stage of life. It's not easy to connect with, or it's not as easy as you think it would be to connect with people. Because once you're with the people that you get along with, it's pretty easy. It's just like finding them, making the
Mhm.
time commitment, So,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, but needless to say, I'm glad you're able to do that during that time, like during that COVID time, the tribulation, if you will, of 2020 through 2021, or what, who knows when did it end? I don't know. It's one of those things where it's there hasn't been a lot of I'm interested to hear more probably conversation about how that affected people psychologically, socially,
Yeah.
things of that nature. Because yeah, it was just I like you. I think you had said that you almost kind of forgot about that time. Like I just kind of block it out, as
Mhm.
like that was a weird like couple
Little
months or
blip.
whatnot. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
blip. But anyhow, so coming out of COVID, you said in 2022 you returned to Jordan, and so what prompted that? What made you feel like you wanted to go back? If you could kind of take me in the audience here through your thought process.
Yeah. I came home pretty burnt out like from the school, as I said. And I was trying to weigh, is this like teacher burnout, or am I just tired because I'm missing home and I've been in another culture for a really long time? And in coming home, and I think just the time that it was, I was kind of like giving myself a bit of a period to figure out, do I want to, if it's possible, is that something that I want to do? is go back. And so for the first year being back, I just kind of enjoyed time with family and just rested a bit and started praying about if this was something the Lord had like closed the chapter on that, or if it was something that would open up again. And as I started praying and just talking with people about um Jordan and things like that. And there was even thoughts like, oh, do I go back to Jordan or do I go somewhere else? Because I just have this I just love learning about other cultures. So I was like, I could learn about a whole nother culture. But I think as I was praying, I just kept feeling like I'm not done there yet. I felt like the people that I had met there, the Lord just kept bringing them back to me, and I didn't was not ready to not see them again. And so I prayed about it. I talked with my family and friends, and it just came to like a point of peace of being like, okay, I'm ready to go back. And it really, once I made that decision, um, I felt a lot of peace about it. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended back over there.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And the the people are such an important factor, I'd imagine, and really in a lot of things that we do in life, but were most of the people that you kind of met and like lived alongside the first time you were there, did most of them either return or were they still there?
Yeah, so the American teachers that I met there, a lot of them have left since most of them left at COVID and didn't really return. But like a lot of the teachers at the school were Jordanian, so they all live there. So they're all still there. And I did have a few teacher friends that are still over there as well, that were American. So yeah, it was like coming back to a already set community felt really good because I kind of had this apprehension of like, am I going back to like another complete unknown of like having to rebuild community? And I did have to a little bit because I lived in a totally different city from before, but it was 40
Oh,
minutes
okay.
away, so I could still see those people pretty easily. Um, but yeah, so yeah, a good chunk of them were still there. Yeah.
Wow. And there was a phrase you had said too on deciding to go back to Jordan specifically and not to go to another country. I think you had said that you didn't feel like you were done there yet. And like, was there something specific in mind that you wanted to do, or just a general feeling like I need to return?
Mm. Well, Middle Eastern culture is like very deep. So it's so ancient, nothing that we in America could really wrap our minds around. And I left feeling like I was just at the surface of like getting to know this culture. And I was missing a whole piece of language because you really don't get a separation between language and culture, they come hand in hand. And so I had a really strong desire to keep learning about the culture and keep learning about the language. And then I did just really enjoy life over there. It is different than here for sure. And part of that is just I lived in a city and it was very urban and I enjoyed that lifestyle, but also just the culture in general is very hospitable. And I found that I really liked that aspect of it and wanted to I saw how it was changing me a little bit and wanted to continue down that path of really learning hospitality from the Jordanian people. So those were a few of the desires.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm glad shared a little bit about the culture because I'd be curious to know like what are some big differences if any, or obviously the language, but as far as like customs, are there anything that's expected of you like in Jordan that would be different than the States, either, like greeting someone or like little things like that took time adjusting to?
Gosh, how much time do you have, Logan? It is endless.
The infinite podcast is what we can name this one.
Join us for our next 10-part series. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, it's so hard. I was listening to you and Mackenzie's podcast and how you guys kept saying, like, I'm not an expert. And that's how I feel. I'm not an expert, but I can share what I've observed and hopefully honor the culture a little bit and sharing some of the things that I've learned. I think there's a lot of differences of, well, religion is a big one because in Jordan, Islam is the religion there. So I think it's 98% of the population is Muslim, and then maybe it's like 1.6 is Christian, and then the 0.4 is different, like various religions. So Islam has like a very heavy hand in the culture, and I will ask friends constantly, is this like thing that I'm learning here, this way that I have to live my life, is this like in terms of Islam or is this in terms of the culture? And sometimes they'll have a hard time separating it because they're just so hand in hand with each other at this point. Because it's so ingrained within the culture, the religion. They don't really separate. So I've
And
learned.
that's interesting. Sorry to cut in for a second here. Because there are, so like in America, there are aspects of Christianity that would be part of the culture, but there's still two very distinct things, or like I don't even know what you call them. They're two very distinct ways of being or something, but they definitely have like overlap or intersection. But what I'm hearing you say is the culture and the religion are so intertwined that not that it's one and the same, but that it's essentially it is like one and the same. They're
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you look at like laws, that's a good thing to look at and seeing how hand in hand they are. It is a Islamic state, so a lot of the laws are dictated by religion. And you'll even see like um not just in Islam, it also for Christians have different laws on some issues, like on divorce. Christians will have different laws than Muslims will have in the country. And there will sometimes be separate courts to deal with it because the law is and religion are like the law uses religion basically.
Whoa.
So and I can't go too in depth about that because I'm just not focused on law. So I
For
can't
sure.
speak
For
too
sure.
much for
Yeah.
that. But I think in speaking of like when looking at the effect that religion has as a whole within the law again is like Ramadan. So the month it's a very holy month for Islam, and it's a month of fasting. And so during that month, it's illegal to eat food out on the street or drink water. So you could get arrested if you're eating or drinking out on the street. Um, so it's very interesting to be in America where we work so hard to separate church and state, and then to also live in a country where it's like there's so much respect in um the state creating laws for the religion and how it respects that. And yeah, it's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. That would be tough to be an outsider, I'd imagine, coming in, and if you were expected to know all of those uh, laws, but not coming from a Muslim background. I don't know. Like I'm assuming because of the program you're with, they were able to help walk you through that kind of stuff. But was there ever a time where you had maybe accidentally done the wrong custom, or like, yeah, you see you're shaking your head. Yes.
So many times, Logan, I've made so many mistakes, which I think is so good for me. So good to be humbled all the time.
Are they pretty understanding though? If are a foreigner visiting, are they typically pretty accommodating with, oh,
So
this is like explaining kindly, like this is how we do it. You don't do it however way, you know.
Yes, so
Okay.
kind. There's like unbelievably, my first week in Jordan, I made like a huge cultural mistake. So like I said, Arabs are very generous and hospitable, and so even it goes down to like their core, it's so genuine. And so I complimented a woman on her necklace. I was at a birthday party and I said, "Oh my goodness, that's a beautiful necklace." And she only spoke Arabic, and so I had a friend there that was kind of translating between us. And there's a word in Arabic that's like, I offer it to you, is basically what it means, like take it. And it's like when someone gives you a compliment, you offer whatever they complimented to them. So if I said, Logan, that's a nice shirt, then you would offer me your shirt. But like just genuinely, it's so built into them to like give you the shirt off their back. But so I complimented this woman's necklace. She said, take it. My translator just literally translated, oh, she wants you to take it. And then she got called to go somewhere else and walked away. And so me and this woman are just standing there. And at that point, I'm like, do I take the necklace then? And I was trying to read what her body language was doing, and she kept just saying this over and over again, like take it, take it. And so I held out my hands and I was like, okay. And all of a sudden I saw like a little bit of a switch in her face for a second, and then she gave me the necklace. And she would have been totally fine her whole life if I had kept that necklace. But I went and I asked my friend, I was like, I took this necklace from her, am I supposed to do that? And she's like, she would be happy for you to take it, but honestly, go give it back to her. So I went and gave her necklace back. So it would have been totally fine. Like it wouldn't have destroyed our relationship, but it definitely was not the correct cultural move to just take her necklace from her in that moment.
Yeah,
So
but it's like in our culture, you don't want to be perceived as rude for refusing a gesture, a kind gesture. So
exactly. Yeah. So it was such like a pull between I was trying to read her reaction without speaking the language with her. And so it was good though. In that moment, I think that set me up well of like, just don't be afraid to ask lots of questions and over ask and like really clarify. Um, and that's really how you make it, is just ask a ton of questions. And something else I learned was don't just ask one person, ask like 7 people the same exact question, because you'll probably get 7 different answers from them.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I have the same philosophy with YouTube. If I'm gonna try to learn how to do something, I want to see 7 different people's
Yeah,
videos on it and then see, okay, they're all doing the same process. So
it's
that,
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, wow. But in that situation too, it's difficult. Your translator, you said, got called away for a second or left. So then that makes it even more difficult because you guys can't really clarify. It's she's trying to give it to you and you're no, it's okay. And so yeah, I can imagine like that's a perfect example of like a little thing, but like very important etiquette, just being
Mhm.
friendly and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's really fascinating. Do you have a favorite Jordanian dish or like food?
Um,
What's the food like?
yeah, there's so much good food. The national dish is called mansef, and I think it's kind of a hit or miss. You either like it or like really love it, or you hate it. Um, and it is, I'm gonna mess it up now. So it's rice and then lamb or chicken, but lamb is like the real deal. And then it's this kind of yogurt called jamid, and it's very fatty. I think it's made from sheep's milk. So it has a very specific taste and smell to it. Um, and you just pour that over top of it and then you put almonds on it. So I personally really like it, but the joke is that like once you eat it, you have to take a nap afterwards because it's just so heavy. So people will be like, all right, here's the mansaf. The bed is over there when you're ready for it.
Is the Mansef, is that more you would save for a special occasion, or would that be a common meal?
Yeah, it's usually for holidays or for weddings or graduation, like anything that involves celebrating, you'll probably see Mansef there.
It makes me think of English or American Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Because
yes,
it's you
100%.
eat the food together, as a family or community or whatnot, and then everyone's just kind of relaxing afterwards, watching football, laying on the couch
Yes,
or whatnot. Yeah,
yes. Oh my
that's
gosh.
cool.
I love American Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and so I believe you said before the call you're heading back. Do you have a time frame? Will you be able to make this Thanksgiving this year, or will you be heading back before?
Yeah, I'll go back at the end of July, so no Thanksgiving this year for me. But there's usually a big group of Americans that you can find and go, and you can pretty much get anything that you need. It might be slightly different, but you can pretty much make anything. So pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, all the things.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so when you return for this upcoming trip in July, are you going to go to one of the two cities you had been previously, or are you going to a new city
Yeah, I'll
altogether?
go back to the city that I've been living in. So it's the capital city. Um, and I still have an apartment there. My roommates are still there. So I'll go back to, yeah, the same place, which is really nice.
That is nice, yeah, to have some familiarity and kind of pick up where you left off, if you will. But
Yeah.
and then is that a year commitment, or does it vary? Is it more up to you?
It's always an unknown. I try and like come up with a general for my family so that we kind of have an idea when we'll see each other again.
Yeah,
So right now I've been saying like a year and a half, probably something around that time. Just so I think it would be nice to kind of rotate the time of year that I'm home to be able to spend Christmas with family sometimes. So that's the hope.
yeah, that would be nice to, the holidays. I'd imagine are the toughest part to be away. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I at this point, I've learned how to like do them so that it doesn't really hurt want to not be with family. Like, of course, it's sad when I see the pictures of everyone together not being able to experience that, but technology really helps. I think I feel the holiday a little bit less, like it doesn't um and part of that is just it's a different country that it's not the main goal of the country to celebrate Christmas and it's not around every corner. So, but there are Christians in Jordan, so you can find churches and um yeah, it can still be a really beautiful time of year.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. You're still able to celebrate in a different capacity in, another country. And yeah, when you do return, do you typically get good breaks like at home, or is that kind of again up to your own discretion?
Yeah. I think this is the first like big trip that I've had back home, so trying to figure out what that looks like. I have a brother that lives in Indiana, so I'll
What
go visit
part?
him. He lives in Brownsburg.
Oh, that's like south of Indy, I think, right? Yep.
Yeah. So I'll go up and visit him and spend a few days there, and then spending time with my brother here and my parents here, and like meeting my nieces and nephews that have been born since I've been gone, and like getting to know them.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
lots of time outside in the green. It's so green here.
The Midwest is awesome as far as, just the four seasons, getting, our trees are starting to bloom here, and the flowers and all that good stuff. So,
Yes, it
yeah.
cracks me up. I heard that Ohio like became a bit of a meme like over the past few
Yeah.
years, and it made its way all the way over to Jordan. And so I was teaching an English class one night and we were discussing like where are you from and that sort of a conversation, and I said I'm from Ohio, And I had a few teenage boys in my class, and they were like, "Oh no, she's from Ohio." And I was like, "How did that make it all the way over here? You know nothing about Ohio. What?"
The internet is crazy. And yeah, I don't get that because even in Indiana, state over where I live, everybody bashes on Ohio. All the guys I'd play hockey with would forget I'm from Ohio, I think, but they would be talking bad about it. And I'm like, it's literally the same thing as like Jordan. I get Jordan is like Ohio and Jordan, very different climates, very different places. But Indiana, it's like we just have a couple more cornfields. It's essentially the same state. So,
Literally, yeah. That's
but
hilarious.
oh my gosh, yeah, that's funny that how far memes can travel, right? They've
Yeah.
yeah, limitless possibility there. But anyhow, Hannah, thanks so much for coming on and for talking with me today. And just want to wish you continued luck and what you're doing over there. And we at the Being and Becoming podcast support you in what you're doing. So
Oh, thank you, Logan. Thanks for having me. This was cool.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything we could link in the description of the episode or something where people could find you or support you and what you're doing?
Yeah. I can put my email, I can give my email to you, and then they can just message me through that. And then I have some like books too, if people wanted to read up on like the history of the Middle East and like
Oh yeah,
that.
I can't believe I say that. I try to ask most every guest, yeah, like what are they reading or like yeah, what books they would recommend. So
Yeah.
do you mind sharing that now and then maybe I could also put those
Yeah,
in the
add that
description? Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just endless amounts of books out there on it, but um two that I have really enjoyed recently is one is called The Lemon Tree. So if you want to read like a little bit about the conflict that's happening right now in the Middle East, The Lemon Tree is kind of like an easier read for people that aren't um I don't know how to put that, but like just want like a lighter read that's not going to just be a history book.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. And then A Line in the Sand, that one is like a textbook. I honestly haven't finished it. I'm about halfway through it, but it's very good. It kind of outlines the role that the West has played in creating the borders of the Middle Eastern country, and then just understanding a lot of the conflict that has come since then. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for those recommendations, and I'll try to remember to put them in the description or whatnot. But hopefully, anyone that's listening and is interested can check those out. And like I like myself, I'm always kind of curious. There's so much history there. I don't necessarily understand all the conflict, but you hear about the great hospitality. That's something that I hear a lot or have read a lot about from the Middle East, and so I appreciate you coming on and kind of adding a little bit to that
Yeah.
to the story here. So yeah, or not that it's a story, but the to
The
the
dialogue.
knowledge, the
The
pool of
knowledge.
knowledge. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on, Hannah. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.